Happy New Year. Welcome all to Sucio Talk. This is episode 6. Today I'm going to sit down with my girl Brittany Cassidy, who used to be the CDC of Birdie G's, as well as the CDC of Rustic Canyon before Andy Dubrava took over. Worked with her a little bit for 12 days over at the restaurant in Meadowood. She also spent some time staging between the two restaurants after her departure from Rustic Canyon and before starting at Birdie G's. So that's Brittany Cassidy. That's coming up. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Hope you're all out there being safe, being merry with your family. A lot of people have been asking me, say, hey, Dave, where can I listen to Sucio Talk? Well, let me tell you. You can listen to Sucio Talk over at Google Podcasts, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Pod Chaser. You can also listen on Spotify. And I'm asking a favor here. Whenever you listen to it on Spotify, go ahead and share it on your Instagram story. Let people know that this podcast exists. Let them know that it's an open forum for young professionals. Talk about what they do in an inspirational manner. To, in the hopes of inspiring you, the listener, to do what you most want to do in this life, chase after those dreams. It's also available on Spreaker. That's the main home of Sucio Talk. That link is in my bio on my Instagram page, David Sucio, David_Sucio. And that's podcast Sucio_talk, dirty talk. All right. So the drop dates are going to be Mondays at noon. There'll be new shows coming up. And then I'll share with you any updates that are coming up in my life or in the podcast life. All right. So that's where you can listen. Those are the drop dates. Brittany Cassidy up next. I want to wish you all happy holidays. Take care of yourselves out there. And if you want to reach out to the show, it's suciotalk@gmail.com. No underscore, suciotalk@gmail.com. Before we get into our next episode, a quick message from my sponsors, Truffle Shuffle S.O. Welcome to episode 6 of Sucio Talk. I'm hanging out here with Brittany Cassidy, former chef of Birdie G's. We just heard of your departure a couple months ago, or a month ago. How long is it now?
Oh, it's been a minute. It's been since the middle of September.
Yeah, there you go.
We are in December.
I know. I can't even, time is just passing by, and I don't even know what's going on. I'm pretty sure it's 2021 in my book. But, we'll end there. We'll definitely go all the way back. And, I want to get to know you a little bit more personally. We had a chance to work together for 12 days. Which RIP to the restaurant, can't happen this year. And then after that, the next time I saw you was when you had come to stage at CO for a little bit. Yeah. And then after that was in London. Yes. Where I saw that you were in town. And I was like, hey, I'm in town too. We're in town together. And when you're traveling in Europe, I was like, all alone. So I'm like, a person I know, because you're going by yourself and you're going to dinner and then you look at everybody having a great time together and you're like, I'm just here.
Like, I do know people.
Yeah, I'm not a loser. I'm not a loser. Like when I went to the Ledbury, everyone's like on romantic dates. And that's when I messaged you. I was at lunch and I was like, hey, what's up? And then we met up at the bar. You were talking to these two, we'll call them blokes because we were in London.
I think they're older chaps.
Yeah, older chaps. There you go. Blokes or older chaps.
Older chaps.
Couple of birds. But they were cool. They were cool. I don't remember anything they said to me, but I just remember that they were cool dudes.
They were drinking since I had arrived. They were drinking large pints, but they were fabulous. They kept me company. They saw I was alone, and they showed a British gentlemanly charm.
Yeah, they really were really cool. Engaged. It's not like if we were here in America and I saw that happening, or like, what are these two douchebags saying to her? You know what I mean?
Danger.
Yeah, exactly. So I was happy that it wasn't that.
But it was charming.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So then we went to Black Axe Mangle.
We went to Black Axe.
That was amazing.
That was incredible.
The pickle shot was cool.
And also just the pub that we ended up going to while we waited for our table.
Yeah.
Remember we like walked
up there. Yeah, it was like a beer and wine little cozy bar.
And they had chips.
Yep, they did.
They had food. They had a menu, but that was like, I remember that ambiance and that like place. There was like a 2-tier or something.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing is that was February 12th or 13th of this year. And so just to think this year we did that.
Yeah.
After everything that's gone by, like, isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was just early this year.
Because you were telling me earlier, it was like, we'd known what COVID that was out, right? But we were like we didn't know anything.
There was no restrictions.
Yeah, there was no restrictions.
We hadn't heard
so we were in, I remember when you brought up that bar just now, it was like asses and elbows.
Oh, yeah.
Just all,
completely
like everybody just
covered.
kind of smushed in there.
Cold,
yeah, it was cold.
But people were out.
Yeah,
and
for
the
sure.
Tube, how convenient it is.
The Tube. Best subway system in history.
Ever.
I don't know why New York isn't following suit. Because the MTA is trash.
Just incredible. Yeah, we went to Brett. Didn't we go to Brett?
Brett. Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
we ate some whole fish.
That was really
and
good.
We ate a lot.
Cheesecake. There's a lot of Basque cheesecake.
Yeah.
Best cheesecake is 2020.
That's
like
right.
Basque cheesecake year.
It was. Chef Cat makes an amazing Basque cheesecake.
I'm telling you,
Damn
it's
it.
all over the place. But yeah, that was just, that was an incredible. And then I think we were in Paris the same day.
Yeah, yeah.
I was pooped. I
did
got
not.
a hotel room for myself for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And it looked like Valentine's Day had thrown up on the wall. It was like very Parisian and French. And
That's
so
funny.
I literally think I slept. I went to the museum, the Orsay Museum, and then I went back to the hotel room.
Yeah, I seriously did laundry all day. It's like, what? I'm just like sitting there eating croissants, doing laundry.
I know.
It's like, well, whatever.
Walking around and just being there, it was just so incredible. I really cherished that trip.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last thing that I've done pretty much anything since, the lockdown.
Exactly.
Later,
yeah.
Well, you went to Italy. You continued.
Yeah, I continued for the whole month. Mm-hmm. And then, I went to Rome for the first time. It was beautiful. And I saw everything that you could see, Did you go
in the Vatican?
I went in the Vatican. I went outside the Vatican. Yeah.
I like how you go down these little small streets and you're maybe in a taxi or you're walking and then you turn the corner and then it's the huge walkway into this huge rotunda of the Vatican is, and you're just oh.
All of the monuments are in town.
Yeah. Okay.
You're just sitting at a restaurant and you're like, oh, there it is.
Hey.
It's not it's like the Empire State Building in New York. It's just in it.
Yeah.
It's not like
right
the Statue of Liberty. You got to go somewhere,
know. Very true.
So let's take it back. So where were you born?
All right, so let's get into me. So I was born in San Diego. My parents were very young. They were 23, both 23 when they had me. They weren't married. Born and raised in San Diego. Really just kind of grew up on the beach. Mom was kind of more of a single mom. My dad was single as well, but everyone maintained friends. We were always around the family.
Yeah.
And then I was about 7 or 8, my mom met someone and decided to get married, and we moved to Tampa, Florida. And so it was my mother, my stepdad, and me, and we moved to Tampa, and I kind of just always wanted to be with my mother, so I stayed with her. I could have probably stayed in San Diego and grown up with my father, and my whole mother's family was still in San Diego, but my mother and I are incredibly close. She's always been there. So I was like, no, I'm going to move to Florida with my mom.
Yeah. So
I moved to Florida, and probably about, I'd say 10 years old, I started taking dance lessons.
Okay.
And Florida is very, very different than Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way of life. It's a different feeling and atmosphere and state and, humidity and weather, and it's just different. It's completely different. And there was communities growing kind of much like what you see now in like Eastern San Diego or Temecula or Fallbrook, where these huge communities of real estate are happening, but that's kind of what Florida was at that time. And my mom wanted me to do like extracurricular things. My mom danced as a young woman. She was a dancer all of her life, and I kind of just, it became natural. So when I went to these dance classes, I got great very quickly. It just came naturally to me. And I've always done, like, I never did team sports really, like soccer or softball or anything like that. I did tennis for like a second. I did piano, and then I slammed a car door on my thumb when I was like 6. So
that was the end of your piano career? What could have been, you know?
I've done that like 3 times in my life.
So you really just made sure...
Thumb in a car
you made
door.
sure that you weren't going to play piano for a living.
I didn't want to go to my lesson. Mother, I'm 6. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so dance just came really naturally. And so there's a huge dance culture in Florida. Tampa is like an hour away from Disney in Orlando.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these performing arts, kids or studios dance at Disney, dance in the parades, are, Disney television. We all know what that is. It's like there's a lot of children, performance actors, that kind of thing. So being in dance classes is a very common thing for a lot of young children in that area. And so I liked it. I really felt natural and at home in this like team environment where, yes, you have to think about this. You're 10, 11, 12 years old, tights and a leotard, and you're staring at yourself in a mirror the entire time you're doing this. And I think that's a valuable lesson in kind of understanding how to elevate yourself and seeing your growth and seeing your development. I think a lot of the emphasis about dance doesn't reflect on that as much as it does about body image, but when you see your actual physical form enhance and become better, there's a different kind of drive that develops inside of that person, I think. And that's how I know dancers and artists to be like that. And especially when you have a mirror in front of you. Yes, you're critiqued all the time, and I think that is a valuable lesson to learn as well. It humbles and creates a understanding of, it's not humiliation.
Exactly.
It's honesty and a valuable lesson to learn to become better. And musicality, listening to different levels of music. Dance to me is an expression of music. And so I love music. I'm like big into it. That was like a lot of my upbringing.
Yeah. What kind of music?
I was a Janet Jackson fiend when I was young. Like Janet Jackson, Madonna, Michael Jackson.
112.
Hey. I was a little bit older. No, I was always like, if you see family videos of me young, because I was around a lot of family during my time in San Diego until about 8 years old. So I grew up there.
Yeah.
But young memories, young childhood memories, and things you can sometimes only remember when they're like a visual picture in front of you or a video that you're watching. It's kind of difficult to reconnect to that sometimes. But all of my family videos are of me performing at some point. Like, not anything that I've learned or whatever, just my natural pizzazz for life.
Flash.
I was one of those. My cousins really didn't like me a lot because I always wanted to be in the middle.
You had that swag, I hear you.
But I love them.
It transfers over into cooking,
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
So I went to a performing arts high school in Tampa. So dance became such a big part of my life, and I was competing with a competition team. Like, that was such a big part of my life that I went to a performing arts high school for dance, auditioned, got chosen, got to, basically the curriculum for 4 years was 2 classes, an hour and 50 minutes each of dance, and 2 academic classes that are your normal curriculum of high school. History, English, geography, math, whatever. That's kind of what your day was split up. So half of the time you were in a dance studio, either doing ballet, doing modern, jazz, learning kinesiology, learning staging, learning equipment, lighting equipment. There were so many facets of it that we learned in high school. It felt like a collegiate education in the sense that I didn't know anyone else that was working this way as a high school student. While I was doing that, I was on the high school dance team. While I was doing that, I was in the dance studios every night. So there was just, I mean, this was my life. That was it. My mother's relationships kind of transitioned during this time, so about my sophomore year of high school. My sister, through her marriage, was probably like 3. I have one sister on my mom's side.
Yeah.
And they got a divorce, and that was about my sophomore year of high school. And I really remembered, like, okay, now I want to go back to San Diego.
Yeah.
I want to go back to LA. Florida was such a wonderful experience for me to grow up somewhere other than Southern California.
Yeah.
So different. Such a different culture and lifestyle, different way of life, different understanding of just kind of a moral compass, really. And Southern California, I mean, it's gorgeous, but there's a lot of superficiality here that doesn't necessarily translate to substance.
Yeah, it's like everybody's trying to be an actress sector out here.
You know, and I'm so appreciative to have a different perspective as my upbringing.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to return. And with dance being kind of this, and this is, okay, so we got to think like culturally. Like I graduated 2003. So 03, 2000, like pop stars, you know, this was kind of when things started to truly commercialize on a different level, I think, for me, like culturally, music-wise, dance-wise, like MTV was, you know, making the video, making the, you know, all of this
they had
stuff.
shows,
They had a lot
not
of
just
shows
music
about dance.
videos.
So LA is like where all of this is happening, LA or New York. And so I came out here because obviously I have family out here. Like this is my safety net. So I came back once I graduated high school. I said, Mom, I love you. I would love to stay and be here with Sis and you and all of this stuff, but I don't want to live in Florida. I don't want to go to college in Florida. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go back to California. And I did. 2 weeks after I graduated, I flew and I said, bye, Mom. I love you. And that was a huge heartbreaking experience for I think my mother and I, because we have never done that before.
Yeah.
And I was 17, moving back in with my dad, who by the way was married and had 4 children and a stepchild and had this entire family.
Yeah, so you're
and
new.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back.
I'm
and
back
move
now.
In now. Hi.
Yeah.
That lasted about 4 months.
Okay.
I realized, maybe there's some things that my father and I might want to start working out.
Yeah.
Because this isn't what you thought it was. You're not like, they call that the Disneyland dad, where you're like the weekend person. And that was the thing. I was 8 when I moved to Florida. At that time, you could put an 8-year-old on a plane.
By himself, yeah.
Fly them
with
to
a little
San
tag.
Diego. You got a stewardess who walks you around. And so I've been flying back and forth by myself from San Diego to Tampa since I was 8 years old.
That was me in Puerto Rico.
Exactly.
Connecticut to Puerto Rico.
You just kind of, you get used to. And I think that's definitely created an understanding of solo travel for me that I still do today.
Yeah,
that
it's
I
amazing.
Feel completely
it's almost like I feel great about it.
Oh,
when I have a trip by myself coming, I'm like, I get to spend 6 hours on a plane. Mm-hmm. No one can call you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
Up top.
Yeah,
that's my
just
favorite
looking
thing.
down.
I look out the window and I look down, and you don't see anything. And you realize, how small are we?
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
And you're not even outer space.
Yeah. Sometimes,
how small are you?
When
you might want to rethink your ego.
When we fly from New York, from JFK to Puerto Rico, everybody always claps. So those were the first flights that I've always, been on. Everybody claps, right? Because they're happy to be alive. And then you get to Puerto Rico, right? So then I flew to California and I started applauding, and no one's clapping, and I'm like, aren't you guys happy to be alive? They're like,
safety first, everyone.
Yeah, no one gives a fuck. But anyways, that was always a cool thing for me, and it only happens on flights to Puerto Rico. Is that what I've seen?
Aww.
Yeah. So
well,
very special.
I've clapped once on a horrible flight, but that was because it took 2 days for me to get from Tampa to San Diego.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
I had a really horrible overnight in Corpus Christi when I was like 17.
Corpus Christi, home of Selena.
Texas. Mm-hmm. So it was just this that was hell, but I clapped on that one. But that was the thing. Like, I wanted to get home.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back, and I wanted to dance professionally. That's what I wanted to do when I got to.
Is there any
home.
inkling in you to cook? Do you even?
So
what's
my
your relationship with
heritage
food? Yeah.
translates that.
Okay.
I have a lot of very strong women in my family. In my mom's side of the family, it's my Nana, my Tia Miranda, my mom, my, Frankie Lynn, my cousin, Aunt Tootie, her sister, my big Nina. It's all of these women who have influenced me in the kitchen because all of them were always in the kitchen.
Yeah.
All growing up, we weren't the family that was eating out. We were the family that was cooking at home and eating for every single occasion. And while you're eating for the occasion, you're talking about the next meal for either that day or the next occasion or whatever we're doing. That's part of the soul of my cooking, is just knowing that it's in a home, it's feeding a family, feeding my family, whatever it is, but it's just kind of that sensation of I know only that. That's what I've grown up knowing.
Yeah.
My father's side of the family, it's kind of mixed. A lot of women, a lot of men. A lot of women also do cook. My dad's mother is French. My dad's dad is Italian. My dad's father actually was one of the original investors with Wolfgang Puck and with Thomas Keller at French Laundry. Like, he's very restaurant oriented and centered, and has he worked as a lawyer in Century City. So he had one of those offices kind of in the middle of the city, and they fed into, when Wolfgang opened the old Spago place, that he was one of those investors. He went to Checkers and would write Thomas Keller notes in the kitchen, just be like, hey, whenever you want to open your own place, let me know. I'm here, I'm an investor. And he's, it's so funny to go into my Grandpa Danny's kitchen. It's like Thomas Keller everything. Like, he just gets gifted all of his stuff because he's an investor. He's, Papa TK's investor.
That's awesome.
But I wasn't close with my father.
Yeah.
And I never really saw my grandfather. And now that we are back in each other's lives. And it's a really interesting,
it's crazy.
Seeing my journey without having that understanding, and then those meeting now and the future of what I actually do now. Kind of just back ass.
It's almost like the universe was like, you need to dance first before you become a chef, and if you stay here, you will become a chef first.
And you will make the connections that will take you wherever you want to go.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
truly what I've been able to realize now.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to LA, I was dancing, trying to audition, doing all that stuff, got headshots, got, the whole thing, put my resume on the back. Got an agent. Went to LA. I never got an agent. I never was with an agency. It's kind of weird, my dance career. Everything's just a little different.
A little different. It's all good.
But I started teaching with an old dance studio. I worked at California Pizza Kitchen, front of the house.
CPK, baby.
CPK all the way. So I started with them as underage host. 17, 18 years old. Didn't realize, one, I was with California Pizza Kitchen for 6.5 years.
Damn.
And two, I was able to stay with them that long because I moved between San Diego and LA a lot, that I was able to transfer stores. So all of my front of the house service stuff is with CPK standard step-by-step kind of idealistic of this corporate. Every single training module you could possibly think of was already put together, was already there. Their success and level of success, especially during that time, is because they had that place locked down. They just had every single detail already written down and put into a sequence of order and sent to every single employee who's going to bear the name of that company.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And I made great money, and I, went back and forth. Always made friends with the kids in the kitchen first. I always had this connection. Obviously, a lot of it being Mexican. I have Mexican heritage.
Yeah.
I would kind of just feel a little more at home in the kitchen
Yeah, I
sometimes.
hear you.
And worked myself up into having a steady job, and that's what kept me going so that I could dance. I could teach classes weekly. I got into a dance company with Cassandra Chavez, and she is now a multiple Emmy award winning choreographer for all of the stuff she does on Dancing with the Stars or World of Dance or any of these kinds of, she was on So You Think You Can Dance as a choreographer years ago.
Damn.
And she's just this incredible woman. She was holding dance company auditions in San Diego for her San Diego company at the dance studio that I went to when I was 5 years old. And so I saw this flyer at some Pilates class I took for this dance company audition. And I was like, okay.
You're like, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's and how cute. It's at my old studio. This is cute. We'll give it a shot. Little did I know, one, I would meet people that I love and are my family. Two, she created opportunities for me that I didn't even know existed. And she also showed me what a strong female leader is, in the sense that all that we were doing, we did rehearsals 5 to 6 times a week. We were rehearsing from 9 p.m. to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, because we're all adults, we all have jobs, and that's the only time that we can rehearse. 3, we're not getting paid for this. We are literally doing it out of the sole, absolute love of, 1, what this woman is producing, and 2, what she is creating out of our own selves, out of us, out of who we are as individuals, as dancers, as technicians, as people, as human beings. And somehow, through the magic of whatever that was, we became the best of ourselves. I was the best dancer I could have ever been, ever, with her training, with her understanding, with her musicality, her details, and listening to music and being able to dissect it into movements on your body that go to every single aspect of that song. It's just, it's just mind-blowing to me. And it speaks to my soul language. What she was producing felt right in my body. It felt like that's the movement I was meant to be creating at that point of my actual stature, of my physical being. And during all of this time, I joined that company. I was 21.
Yeah.
I think I was 21 or 22 years old. So we were in San Diego. My mom is still in Florida. My mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. My sister's out there. I went out for this surgery, but I had to come back.
Yeah.
I was working, and, when you're young, when you're 21, 22, 23, kind of just navigating life, it was a really difficult thing for me to do. And what that company allowed me was a sense of therapy to go through that emotion without having to be there.
Yeah.
And really allotted this safe space for all of us as a company. We were probably 20 to 25 company members. Plus, she had Unity 2, which was a younger company. Then she had Unity LA, which were all these professional dancers, which are still dancers I watch on television now and look up to this day, just as artists, as people who create. And it really just, I made connections with these people that are lifelong. So then you have family, then you create family. And I'm used to cooking for family. And so after these rehearsals, let me tell you a little thing about San Diego. There is no late night dining. Well, now there's no dining, period.
Yeah.
But San Diego has never had late night dining.
Really?
LA has maybe swingers or Pacific Dining Car. These are these 24-hour kind of things.
The street cars and stuff. They got
cars for pancakes at 5 a.m. But for me, what it was is, okay, let's just go to a grocery store. I'll buy, let me see what's in your fridge. I'll buy something and I'll just cook us dinner. And that's how my career started.
Yeah.
Is that these company members, we would be, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. We'd go to the 24-hour Rouse and I would get chicken and rice. And just through my own understanding of just doing that, of being in someone's home and cooking, because that's all I've known with my family and my mother, this feels right. So the food you obviously produce is always going to be better than what you would buy because of that point because you're putting your love and your soul into it. And not only did I cook dinner for my company, there's 2 instances. So one of our shows, one of our performance shows that I was actually performing in, this was when Cassandra was starting to get approached by TV executives.
Yeah.
She would ask me to cater the intermission of like a green room for VIP executives because she knew I could cook.
Yeah.
And she was like, could you like put something together? I'm like, yeah, totally. So I made, and this was like amateur hour. I made like crock pot barbecue pork.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But you know, I love that because like at that point you weren't a chef, so you didn't cook with the stress of like, what if they don't like it? You're just like, oh, whatever, just make some food.
You want some food? Okay. And I'm like in full stage makeup.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sweats on because I have like a ridiculous costume underneath, like doing pork sliders. And I'm like, thank you. Okay.
I gotta go.
Like a stretch. On 5. And so they encouraged me to go to culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Britt, I remember a second time we had this show, Unity LA, Unity 2, Unity San Diego. We were down in San Diego by like SeaWorld.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned one of our hotel suites, I swear to God, into a fucking restaurant. It was like, we had a small kitchenette.
Yeah.
It was one of the nights before. I catered this motherfucker. I made a shit ton of bolognese. I even had like my own coolers. I had a shit ton of bolognese. I had a big thing of pasta. I had garlic bread, and it was one of those small ovens that doesn't fit sheet trays.
Yeah.
So I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to heat up this shit? And I'm like in this hotel room, and we actually got, somebody knocked on the door because there was like 15 people all sitting around. We had like a nice jazzy music in the background. It was a fucking restaurant. And somebody came up and was like, is everything okay? They're like, yeah, we're just having dinner. It's our entire company.
That's amazing.
But it was just, it felt like that's what I was always supposed to be doing. Dance was mine. It wasn't mine. I didn't want to share that with anyone.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized, that I don't want a career of dance. I don't want to chase that in dance because dance is not that for me. Mm-hmm. Dance for me was my therapy. I've never gone to a therapist. I've never done anything bad. I dance. I let it all out. Like all of my, during my mother's kind of diagnosis, I was in a dance studio. Living in Florida and kind of being in this unknown area with just my mother and seeing that kind of situation, I was always in dance. Like, I didn't really understand what it was that I was doing because I was very, I love to perform. I loved to be on stage and do that, but there was a sense of deep insecurity about that part of it, that wasn't as important to me as it was just being in a studio and expressing myself. Mm-hmm. And so I was living in San Diego. I found this thing called the Kitchen Academy. And I went to the open house of the Kitchen Academy because I was working at CPK. I was dancing with Unity, and we would perform. Like, we went to different shows and performed. Like, we were performing dance company. Mm-hmm. We just weren't getting paid for it.
Okay.
But that's okay. Like, that's, to me, I was like, this is just what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah.
I need this in my life. We, as a company, need this woman to teach us and to show us and create us to be this part of us, this part of ourselves, the best version. And when I saw the Kitchen Academy, I was like, okay, so this would be like a little bit more casual, because really the only culinary school in Southern California that you would think of is like Cordon Bleu in Pasadena, which is closed now. So then you have like Art Institute, you have like these little random kind of places that are programs and not like degrees, collegiate degrees. And that's kind of what I was interested in. I didn't want to go to college.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue dancing, and I didn't want to go back into school. But the Kitchen Academy was this kind of opportunity to do that. It was like a program.
Gotcha.
Signed up for it. Found an apartment to move into in LA. Decided to move. 2 weeks before I started this Kitchen Academy and moved up to LA, they called to let me know that Cordon Bleu bought the Kitchen Academy. and that I was actually going to be the first class of the Hollywood campus of Villa Cordon Bleu.
Damn.
And my fees had already been paid, and the little bit of it that was left, I was able to get through a grant.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah, why not? Let's do
I'll
this.
go to Le Cordon Bleu Hollywood. And it wasn't the degree. It wasn't like the full program. I think it was like a 7 or 8 month diploma.
It's like a certificate.
Program.
Yeah.
And I went. And so I was working at CP. I did the morning class. So from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. I'm going to school. From like 11 a.m. or noon to 6, I work at CPK. And then from like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I go to dance rehearsals. And I'm in the company in Los Angeles. And I'm just like, that's my life. And it got to the point where when I got into culinary school, I liked it.
Yeah.
Like, I liked being in the kitchen. I liked going to those classes.
Especially in the school, because, you know, your jacket has to be ironed and pressed, and, like, there's all these expectations. And even before you walk in the door, you're like, damn. You know, you don't feel challenged like that anymore.
And other people wanted to be there. This wasn't like you're in, you know, a collegiate academic class. Like, everyone who's there is paying to go there to create that curriculum for themselves.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I liked that journey. And I had always watched, you know, PBS programs as a kid, and you know, cooking has always been embedded in who I am. I just never, ever, ever until like probably my mid-20s thought of it as a professional option.
Yeah.
That was the difference. That was the clicking
like,
point
I can get
for me.
paid
like,
for this?
Oh, okay.
Not very much, but yes.
Not very much, but this is a job.
Exactly. I can do this.
Okay,
I can barely make rent doing this.
Yes,
That's
I
great.
can, get into further debt. But I don't know why I like this so much.
Yeah, love that.
And so my first teacher is Matt Carpenter, and he creates my professional career for me. He was the first teacher. I went through the whole program. I graduated in 2008. Got my, went to Santa Anita, had my toque, got my little graduation. Felt very proud of myself.
Yeah.
The whole family was there. It was great. And started working with my first teacher, Matt. He, during our internships, hired me where he was the chef de cuisine at Josie's in Santa Monica, which is unfortunately no longer there, but Josie LaBalch, she was the chef there. And so that stage internship / like first paying job was when I had to choose whether I was going to dance more or whether I was going to cook. Because everyone knows when you decide to cook, you can't half-ass it at all.
No.
It can't be another idea.
No, you have to go
It is the
all
idea.
in. Yeah.
It is the only idea. And your off time is practicing that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose that instead.
Yeah.
I decided I didn't want to dance. I didn't want to audition. I didn't want to make a job out of dance. As much as I love performing and I love being in class, I can still do that.
Yeah.
I can have that for myself. But this is something different.
How did your company take that? Like
everyone, and that's the thing, everyone knew what I could create for myself. Because there's a level of honesty that comes with dance. If you're not going to make it, they say no.
Yeah.
They say no to your body before you walk in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of no's. And it is all through connection. The connections are your yeses.
Yeah.
Or at least your opportunities. And if you're not hustling that, you're going to fall short. You're going to lose out. This is Los Angeles. This is 2008, 2010. Like, this is the boom of when that was happening, of when all of this stuff really started to garnish, like, a lot of celebritydom with it.
Attention.
Same thing in the culinary field. Like, my opportunities that came through culinarily during that time were because it was more exposed on television. Like, in my dance companies, because I was always cooking for them, we were watching Food Network.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when, Food Network 2000s and beyond really started to create its own celebrity.
Top Chef, Bon Bravo, like other places started doing shows.
Like this, it's all this interesting kind of accessibility now to be cooks, and so it was like kind of cooler, and there's a little bit more of a understanding in, actually, I think now more Los Angeles, of that camaraderie of who you've worked with and worked for, and how closely knit that is, especially now, especially with like that new wave of restaurants that happened about 5-10 years ago. And so I decided I want to work at Josie's. My time at Josie's was short. It wasn't long, and I kind of went into a private chef opportunity, which I've dabbled in here and there. Obviously now more than ever, it's more of my main occupation, but I've done it most of my career, and that was kind of the interesting thing. I've always dabbled in it a little bit. It hasn't always been restaurants. And so Matt Carpenter, after I had gone, had the opportunity to open MoMed. Mm-hmm. And all this time, I'm still working at California Pizza Kitchen. Okay. So this is like, CPK is doing it for me.
Okay, got you.
Hollywood and Highland
Were you the host still, or did you move up?
For 6.5 years, I was bartending at that point.
Damn, B.
I went all the way up. They wanted me to start training. I was like, I don't know if I should be this long. Like, it's been 6.5 years. Like, oh, God. Okay.
Love
maybe
that.
I should, like, take this tie off.
That's awesome.
But Hollywood and Highland, that, you know, being in the middle of LA, and you just kind of, it's fun. Like, that part of the city and that time frame of the city was a lot of fun. Like, the city is crazy. But I just decided, okay, let me open this restaurant. I've never opened a restaurant before. And MoMed is a small concept. It's more of that takeout delivery, Eastern Mediterranean platform than a sit-down dining restaurant. And it's on, how frickin' quaint is this? So it's on Beverly Drive, mm-hmm. and so is the original California Pizza Kitchen, which is where I was working at while I opened MoMed.
Oh, so you could just go back and forth?
And I went back and forth. And I ended my tenure at California Pizza Kitchen at the OG original Beverly Hills location. I said, thank you so much for all of your time. I appreciate it. I got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, 6 years of service at CPK.
A lot of step-by-step
lessons learned, man. Lessons learned. I hear
hell
you.
Yeah.
I mean,
completely.
I learned a good base at KFC where I worked, you know?
Volume of takeout at Hollywood and Highland during productions. We would do $4,000 in just like 2 takeout sales. And they wanted individual names on boxes with like no avocado, mm-hmm. no red onion, add extra tortilla strips, and like side ranch. Like, shut the fuck
That's
up.
Awesome. And we had
and you're doing like 36 of those.
Yeah,
so
dude.
It believe me, I definitely garnished a lot of valuable experience mm-hmm. working with that company.
Because you're just like,
with that volume, it's insane.
When I was at KFC, you had the headset, so you hear the drive-through, plus you had the front cash register. There was a line out the door, cars out the parking lot, and you're like, what is going on here?
You're like, and I'm computing this?
Yeah, and I'm doing this?
Exactly. Yeah. Organize this shit right now.
It's like, I have a funny story. One of my managers, his name is Larry. He's the first guy I ever bought weed from. Mm-hmm. And he got arrested one night during Saturday night service at KFC, right? So he's literally mixing mashed potatoes. Like, the mixer's going, and you know the mixer's big, so it's moving the table. You know, it's just like shaking like a washing machine. And he's like, as soon as the cops bust through the back door, he lights a cigarette immediately in the kitchen of this KFC. So he's smoking this cigarette. He's like, he knows he's going to, this is the last cigarette he's going to have for at least 14 hours, you know? So they arrest him, and it was such a funny scene because he's standing there with his KFC coat, like his hat to the side a little bit. He had blonde dreads, smoking a cigarette. This mixer's going, and this man's getting arrested. All of a sudden, they call the manager from this other store in New Haven. He comes and takes over the service, and me and my friend Sergio looked exactly the same, right? So we're running in circles all night doing everything, and at the end of the night, he's like, hey, man, do you want to come work for me at the New Haven store? And I was like, what do you mean? And then my friend showed up right next to him, and he's like, wait a minute, there's 2 of you? He's like, I thought you were one person the whole night. And I was like, how is this man going so quickly? Like, I would go for chicken, and then my buddy would come back with chicken, and he'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? But I thought that was hilarious.
High on
Yeah, and I was 16 years old, so I was like, somebody thinks I'm good at something, So that was the first,
CPK took care of me.
Yeah.
I was able to work for them for 6.5 years because they let me go to Hollywood and Highland, then I go back to the Solana Beach one, then if they needed help in Burbank when I lived there,
Yeah.
and then if they needed to go in North Hollywood, like, that's the thing about convenience. It's convenient.
Yeah.
Like, they're everywhere.
For everything, even their staff.
You can go back and forth, no problem, no matter where you live in this city.
Mm-hmm.
And, I value that. And so those were two big departures. One, I was leaving my dance career, my dance company, and then two, I was leaving CPK, and I took all of my time and energy into cooking.
Yeah.
And being a cook. And I was green opening MoMed. That was the first opening I'd ever done. I'd never tested recipes beyond, like, nothing professional.
Yeah.
Everything at home. And I really just saw a great momentum kind of happening inside of me that I liked what I was doing.
Yeah.
I liked cooking. I liked putting it together. I was incredibly insecure about it. Really not knowing where to put my foot, which actually I think helped me in the beginning because I was observing the entire time. Like, I was quiet in the kitchen. I was, putting my knife together. I'm, like, looking around. I'm not my boisterous self. I'm not performing. I'm, like, much more of a student and closed off. And through the kind of celebritydom of cooking culture, Top Chef was going, and Michael Voltaggio and his brother Brian were on a season.
Yep.
And I followed them, and I was like, this Michael guy, what is he doing? Like, this guy's insane. Realized his restaurant was in Pasadena at the dining room, and I started going to that restaurant. I would take my friends, I'd take my sister, and we would dine. And I love fine dining. Like, I love being a patron of fine dining. Love it. Eat it up. Don't like cooking in those kitchens. I am not a fine dining chef.
Yeah.
I would rather be the fine dining patron. You guys, do your magic. Like, go for it. Give it to me. I would love to dress up. I'll get all fucking dolled up. That's my favorite part. I'm going to go out. I'm going to look like a lady. I'm going to act like a lady. I'm going to drink like a fish. And I'm going to enjoy myself. And I love that. I've always loved that. Even as a kid, like, I loved going, when we went out to dinner, because we would cook so much at home. When we would go out to dinner, like, ooh, it's Friday night, we're going out to dinner. I'm like, I'm going to get dressed up, we're going to go to Macaroni and Grill, I'm going to have manicotti, and just
That's
feel
awesome.
Like so excited about it. And so I kind of just became, acquaintances with Voltaggio, with Josh Goldman, with a couple people in the kitchen, and just through the social culture of cooking in LA, he was opening, all of this press was opening about Ink. He had this restaurant, Ink, that was opening. It was, like, big. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he popped open Ink Sack, which was the sandwich shop right down, like, a few doors down from Ink.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, what the hell is this sandwich shop? So I went in with my girlfriend to, like, try it out. And Michael was there, and he offered me a job. He goes, you want to cook with me? I'm like, yeah, I do. I'll help out. So I started at Ink Sack as a prep cook while I was working at MoMed.
Uh-huh.
Decided to leave MoMed, only work at Ink Sack.
Mm-hmm.
Worked a few weeks there, like, garnered more momentum, and then became a prep cook for Ink when it opened. And it was Sable, Brittany Vallis, and me as the AM prep cooks of Ink. It was like us three ladies.
Yeah.
A couple boys sometimes. Daniel would come, we had a couple of guys who would come in and do some stuff, but we were the three women that were hitting it hard.
Mm-hmm.
Maylin, she was a fish cook there, and I saw her. I had interactions with her. Her and I are still very good friends. We had some fun there. Sable and I are still incredibly good friends. Like, those women, like, what we dealt with in that kitchen.
Yeah.
Because there are toxic work environments out there.
Yeah.
And there are lessons to be learned as managers. I'm not saying I'm not one of them. Like, you can't judge people on how they're, creating their world if you realize that they don't know any better.
Exactly.
It's like, let me show you this lesson to learn. And then if you choose not to learn the lesson, that's probably when I'm going to place judgment. Mm-hmm. That's just my natural being.
Yeah.
But it was brutal. It was hard. At the same time I was doing that, my mom moved back out from Florida. So now I had my mom here, my sister here, and then her husband and his 2 children. So now, like I did, moving back in with my dad's house, in the first time in San Diego, my mom and her entire family were moving back in, and we all got a house together. So I was able to work 2 jobs rent-free, save up some stuff, live with my family, but I was at Inc. in the morning doing prep, and then I would go to the Roosevelt Hotel, and I opened Publican restaurant there, or not Publican, Public Kitchen and Bar restaurant there. And I did that for almost a year, doubles. 2 days off, 5 days on.
Yeah.
7 a.m. to 3:30, 4 p.m. to midnight.
You don't even feel it, though, You're just so hungry. You're just like, I want this.
Yeah.
There's no place you'd rather be than be in the kitchen.
Do I remember a day of it? No.
No, not at all.
It's a blur.
Just...
a fucking blur.
Yeah.
Like, what? I remember, like,
it's a series of, like, similar days with different problems. That's all it is. It's like the same day.
The banquets at the Roosevelt Hotel, let me tell you something. So the Roosevelt Hotel is a huge chunk of my life as well because, 1, it was a hotel. I'd never worked in hotels before. 2, it was a restaurant inside of a hotel that was doing hotel food, restaurant food, and pool food, and room service food. And
chaos.
500 people, and the Oscars, and like everything across the street from Hollywood and Highland. It was just fucking chaos. And I don't think I'm going to be able to work in an environment like that ever again.
Yeah.
Like, it is just not my cup of tea. But I met such valuable human beings in that hotel. Not only Vartan Avarian, who I love and who taught me a lot there. Javier, who is my ex-boyfriend, who I love as a human being and hope the best for him. But we grew a lot as individuals, as cooks, together there. And then Mark and Med, who own the spare room upstairs, which is like this bar / bowling alley / like lounge vibe atmosphere, fucking cool spot. And Naomi Shimmick, who ran that bar, she would see me in the kitchen, and she just liked that there was a woman in the kitchen first around these like crazy hotel cook men. Yeah. And then I just liked, I missed being behind a bar because I was a bartender at CBK, and I love, I make a good pina colada, I make a good, like they had a strawberry one where it was like blended in, it was so good. But I kind of decided, one, I left Inc. because I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Yeah. Like, I am literally losing myself.
Were you still prepping at that time, or were you on a station?
I stayed prepped the entire time because I was at the Roosevelt Hotel at night. Got you. So I only prepped in the mornings there. And the Roosevelt, I worked every single station. I even expedited sometimes. Like, Vartan and I cooked Alex Resnick's dinner at the James Beard house together. Whoa. Like, that's how close we were. Yeah. He was like, you know, it's not me. If you want to go, if you pay for the trip, I can get you there, like, if you want to cook.
Let's go. Like, hell yeah, you want to go.
So,
cooking at the James Beard house is...
It's
so cool.
Endearing of a moment as an individual in this hospitality industry, I feel like.
My favorite thing was the dishwashers. Oh. They could give a fuck less who the fuck was there. They did not care. They were just like, yeah, just give me the shit. I don't care. Like, who you are, doesn't matter what chef was there. And I know they're the same way every day. Yeah. It doesn't matter who's there. I love that.
In the back, I barely worked on one side. I loved it. I loved that whole trip. And so I just realized that I could learn a lot from Barton.
Yeah.
And so I left Inc. I stayed at Public with him. And then I kind of got a little, I don't know, not bored, but just kind of over hotel food.
Yeah.
Like the Public food was the same. It wasn't changing. We were like still doing room service, still doing the pool stuff. So you're doing like this beautiful, like, you know, cheese tart, the tart shell. You're making these, you're prepping these, and then you're doing like a shit ton of fries and chicken fingers and all that shit. And it's just like, ugh, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, when the things start to look not beautiful, that usually are like stunning, you know, you're just like, I can't be here anymore.
I'm done. Thank you so much.
I'm not bringing a positive thing to this anymore.
No, including my soul.
Yeah.
And so Naomi found me and she was like, do you want to maybe start some food up north in the spare room? And I'm like, okay. So I went upstairs and started working for Mark and Met at the spare room as not only like a bar back, but also I started to introduce food into their menus and their offerings. I would do different things a night and help them with like catered events and stuff. They did a boron puree like cocktail competition one time, and I used some of their savory purees and like made a menu and like fed them, and it was just kind of those like really random reasons to have food, but they were there. They were the opportunities, and so I was, you know, able to go downstairs in the kitchen and cook because I knew that place, and then go upstairs and be a part of a bar and a lounge and like an evening vibe that does not exist in restaurants. It's much more secluded and different understanding. And the way that they taught me how to approach food, because you're approaching food in a bar, they were so concerned about the smell of the food because of, you know, the smell of the bar and the drinks, and they don't want it to interfere, and they want it to blend, but you don't want it to be strong. And so it just created another opportunity of learning for me as a chef, as understanding my venue and really being able to enhance the atmosphere instead of just be the star of the show. Like there are two successful ways to have those types of experiences. It's not one or the other. Both can be equally successful. Just depends on what your, you know, feeling is. And so I learned a lot there. And I just got to the point where it was restrictive in my own creative ability, as far as like I felt mature enough to create food, but I felt immature enough as a professional to still want to have a mentor in the kitchen. And I kept hearing this name like Jeremy Fox in like Eater or something. He was like at Paper and Plastic for like a minute, and then he was gonna open something in Venice for a second, and just like all this random stuff, and he never really opened, and everyone was like interested in this name, and I didn't know who the chef was. I didn't know about Ubuntu. I didn't know about Reissue. Like I wasn't that kind of professional that knew the history.
Yeah.
My professionalism of this career kind of just was like opportunistic. It was just whatever came my way, I took it, rather than like, oh, I know so much history of this and that's what I want to create for myself.
Yeah.
And when I saw Rustic Canyon, I was living in Redondo Beach and I was commuting to Hollywood every day, so I really wanted to find something on the west side that was closer, and that was like really my only interest. And I interviewed with Jeremy. I ate dinner there with my mom before I staged, and he came out to the table, and the food was incredible. It was like some of the best food I've had in LA at that time. I was just like, oh my god, this food's delicious.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And it wasn't vegetarian. It was like pork belly and all this good stuff. So I staged. I liked the kitchen. I liked the environment, the work environment. I thought his food was great, and I started as a cook.
How long had it been open when you went?
So Rustic Canyon was open for 6 years by the time Jeremy got there. And Evan Funke was the chef prior to him.
Okay.
Who created a burger that is like, you know, regarded as the best burger in Los Angeles. So Rustic Canyon, when Jeremy came into the picture, was all about this burger. And that was like the level of cuisine that the clientele was kind of expecting.
Came to
they
expect
knew
it.
with Josh and Zoe and like what Huckleberry was and Milo and Olive and Sweet Rose Creamery, like these things were opening and, you know, the brand was kind of being created. But Rustic Canyon was always farmers market driven. It was always fresh, you know, kind of in the essence of being a platform for what's available at the market. And obviously Jeremy, being who he is, can highlight that better than anyone else. And so he came in January of 2013.
Yeah.
And I was hired in March of 2013. I was the first cook he hired from inheriting the team that was there previously. I was like one of the first outsiders in that he hired for the team. That was March. By November of the same year, David Kinch had Manresa cookbook dinner at Rustic Canyon. And he brought Jessica Largy down, and
She's amazing.
And Carlos Salgado was there helping prep, and we put on this cookbook dinner. And this is like Jeremy Fox is to me as David Kinch is to Jeremy Fox. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have your mentor,
your
who
guy,
just kind of, you know, teaches you the ways. And so this is a huge deal. And Jeremy didn't have his like second in charge team wasn't really there for him, you know, because they inherited him.
Yeah.
Per se. Actually, one of them was not even there doing Chopped. So I kind of stepped in just as, you know, being someone who had enough experience to be like, okay, we need to organize this.
Yeah.
I know organization. I know that this needs some of it. So I kind of stepped in to become that second in command for Jeremy during that time. And Jessica Largy and I actually stood side by side and worked a station together. And I saw her work and I looked at her and I was like, okay, I want whatever you have. Like this, you are the calmest, the coolest, the most incredible technician. Your food is incredible. Like, and her and I are deep, like, soul sisters. I love her. I love everything about our friendship and our relationship together. And everything that we've both been through. We've been there for each other. And that was the start of something incredible for me, of that Manresa dinner. Because it showed that Jeremy and I could work together in a management space. And he allowed me the opportunity to practice that. And then seeing this other female, like Tassandra Chavez, who was my dance company director, seeing this other female who was in a kitchen for David Kinch, this person that kind of, you know, like, is this beautiful being working magic in a kitchen. Okay, there is something achievable here for me.
Yeah.
And I need to create that for myself. And what I learned at Rustic will be forever my foundation of knowledge.
Yeah.
Of everything. Of not only P&Ls and COGS, but of management, of the farmer's market, of vegetable work, of technique, of just all of it. And so I gradually, you know, got promoted just because of the amount of effort I put into it.
Yeah.
I wasn't dancing anymore. I wasn't working double jobs. I was dedicated to Rustic Canyon. This is what I have.
Yeah. So something Chef John, you know, Chef Kat's husband told me is, he was like, you don't become sous chef the day they're like, hey, you're a sous chef now. You know, it's like you become sous chef by doing sous chef things, and then that's recognized.
Yep.
And then you become a sous chef.
Yep.
So that's what you did. And did you know you were doing that? Were you like, this is going to get me this next step? Or like, this is just how I work?
Yeah. And I didn't know the history of that understanding. My job experience was like, okay, open this restaurant. Okay, open this one in its hotel. Okay, introduce some food into a bar. Okay, you're just prep at Inc. You're not even working service. Like, I never really fully expressed myself as a manager ever, except in that kitchen, because I felt so at home, because I felt so comfortable in my skin there.
And he empowered you to do so.
And he taught me what was right for the space and allowed me to management in my own style. And I think that's kind of where him and I created our symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
You're giving me what I'm giving you, and that's exactly what we need right now. And then Rustic was like number 6 and then number 5 on Jonathan Gold's list. And then we started getting press. And then he's nominated for a James Beard Award. And then we're like then it's the 10-year anniversary and we're bringing all these chefs back, and then the cookbook comes out and he's, outspoken about his journey, and we go to New York and we go to Chicago and we're cooking together, and we completed each other as a team. If him and I are there, we're good.
Yeah.
We're solid. We've got it. No problem. Doesn't matter where we are. Doesn't matter what we're cooking. Doesn't matter if we fuck everything up. We got it. Like, we get it about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I built a lot of connections with those opportunities that I now see of incredible importance and incredible, not only blessed, but just humble, giving thanks to what Jeremy was able to provide for me.
Yeah.
You've got to understand what people give to you,
yeah, for
and
sure.
provide for
100%.
you, to understand how to reciprocate that for someone else when the time comes.
Yeah.
And so during Rustic, I think Chef Jeremy really wanted me to have an opportunity of opening my own restaurant, because Rustic, again, it was always a concept restaurant. It wasn't even Jeremy's concept restaurant. Like, we moved the menu into where it was as a complete, reciprocation of that, like, farmer's market, pick of the day, almost.
Yeah.
Like pick of the week. Like, no, literally pick of the day. On Wednesday we would make a dish, and then on Saturday when a new vegetable is out, we come out and we make a dish on Saturday. Like, we were changing the menu constantly. And keeping, like, 23% food cost. Like, keeping it consistent for years. Just like, okay, we got this. Like, we're hitting this stride. And always the opportunity came up. Tallulah's opened during the time I was at Rustic. Esther's opened up during the time that Rustic was. Cassia opened. It's like, all of these opportunities. The company was growing. But none of those projects I was interested in.
Yeah, you were just like, Rustic is my guy.
Rustic is what I want to do for now until... And I always wanted to cook comfort food. I think the stuff that I've always originated as my cuisine is the stuff that's, like, very basic and comforting from a home perspective, because that's how I love to cook. And what Birdie G's was the opportunity for Jeremy to open his restaurant.
Yeah.
And create it to be something that I can also have as my opportunity to open and run my own restaurant.
Yeah.
And so I left Rustic Canyon with the intention of garnishing more knowledge for the opening of Birdie G's.
Gotcha.
So there was about like a 6-month period. So I left Rustic as chef de cuisine.
That was that right after you did 12 days, right? Because I remember that was part of the topic of conversation. Your whole family came to 12 days, and it was like, hey, this is kind of like a goodbye because you're going to go and do this thing.
Yeah.
But the team that you brought up there would be very instrumental after that, right?
Yeah, so Andy Dubrava.
Yeah.
So when we did 12 days, Saw, who was the executive chef at Tallulah's, now he actually just recently left. Halloween was his last day there.
Yeah.
But Saw is the executive chef at Tallulah's. Andy Dubrava is the executive chef now at Rustic, and he was our sous chef for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then myself, and basically you have a trifecta. It's funny. I'll show you in my hallway. There's a picture of the four of us, and that 12 days, especially for me, having my family,
both
was
of your
my
families,
uncle and his wife, my uncle and my tia Miranda and my nana, the 5 of them, to have them there and share that experience. And my mother's been able to experience restaurants with me, my family has above, but for us, my aunt and uncle live in Napa. They're all located up there, and so it was just a really, really genuinely incredible thing for me personally to have as that, like, culmination of one of my last memories of Rustic.
Yeah.
And so, and the last, 3 months of my time at Rustic were incredible. Like, the 12 days of Christmas. In March, I went to New Orleans with Indie Chefs Week with Grover Smith, and he invited me, and I met people that I love dearly now that have actually even assisted me with my departure from Birdies and like helping me get jobs. Like that one New Orleans trip was like a whole new thing for me. And then when I left Rustic Canyon, the next week, the first week of April, we had already scheduled to do the Synergy series, the first dinner at Spoon and Stable in Minneapolis with Gavin Kaysen. And so I left Rustic. The 31st of March was my last day. But our plan was to still do this event together. So it was Jeremy and myself, and then our buddy Steve, who worked with Jeremy, and who else went with us? Let me think. I think his name's Cameron. Hold on. I think it's Cameron. I can't believe I'm spacing out on his name.
Cameron, we're so sorry.
Yeah.
If that's not your name.
I'm like, what the hell? And so we went to Spoon and Stable, set up for the Synergy Series dinner, had the most incredible time. Like, literally going into Spoon, seeing the, like, things on the walls of just the inspirational quotes and, like, the organization, and then, like, meeting Chef Chris and Chef Gavin. This was the first time I'd met them. I just hit it off. Like, I really felt their vibe. I dug what they were doing. The whole entire cook crew there, they were just such professionals with this, like, incredible sense of kindness that doesn't really, truly, you don't see it very often, people. I'm just saying, people can be more kind. And I loved it.
Yeah.
So then what they do during your Synergy series and you cook your food there. I was on the Scallop Station and Gavin's like expoing. I'm like totally digging all of it. They take you to Belcourt, which is their restaurant in Wayzata. It's the French restaurant that he dedicated to Daniel Boulud in this area in Lyon, the Belcourt. And it's the most stunning restaurant ever. So we were there in April and they had a huge snowstorm. So like it's on Lake Minnetonka. The lake is crystal blue. There's still snow around. This Belcourt restaurant, you walk in, it's like this gorgeous kind of like open hallway space. On the right is the bakery and the bar. On the left is the dining room. In the back you have the chef's table and the kitchen. And it's just so fucking beautiful and gorgeous. And Jeremy always asks me, he's like, what kind of restaurant do you want to open? I'm like, I don't know. I really don't. And then I walked into that restaurant and I looked over and I'm like, you know how you always ask me what kind of restaurant I want? I was like, this is it. Like, beautiful. This is it. This is exactly what I had pictured in my mind. And we sat at the chef's table and had brunch. Chef Ryan took care of us. One of the cooks at Belcourt actually staged at Rustic Canyon in January. Mm-hmm. And Gavin Kaysen was in town with his family and came to Rustic for dinner.
While this man was staging?
Was staging. Not because, but they...
How nerve-wracking.
Interesting. That was the first time I met Gavin.
Okay.
And I was expoing in the kitchen, and Jeremy was there, and he had such charm and such grace, and I was like, oh my god. And Stu, who actually is one of my best friends now, slept on my couch because he had like a horrible Airbnb situation. He got kicked out. He like showed up at Rustic with this huge yellow duffel bag. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta find a place to stay. I was like, you can sleep on my couch. What chef de cuisine am I that like our poor Minnesota stage is like out on the fucking streets? Gavin would not approve.
No, hell no.
So I saw Stu, actually, like he was at Belcourt. We had brunch. Loved it. Loved everything about that experience. And so when I came back to LA, I was a free woman. Didn't have a job. Had stages set up. So I went to Statebird Provisions and kind of worked in the commissary up there at Progress. I worked at Camino when it was open. Got to spend like a week there at Camino and work in the kitchens. Worked at Charter Oak with Kat. Yep. Spent a few days there. Went back to the Meadowood farm to stage there, and I was catering my uncle's wedding that summer, and I got to go to the farm. And he was like, yeah, you can pick whatever you want. Just if you want violas, because I wanted violas, I want a bunch of garnish stuff. He's like, yeah, go out there. And so it's just like this, from 12 days and having these relationships in place and just having these connections, not being, underneath someone else's name to continue those conversations was really sweet to me.
Yeah.
I really felt for the first time as a professional chef because I was able to hold these conversations without anyone around me and still maintain those relationships. And that's what I did. I went back to Minnesota during the summer and staged again at Spoon and Stable for like a full week. I actually lived with Stu at the time in Minnesota. And my goal was always to come back and open Birdie G's. And so for me, I realized like kind of in August and September that Birdie G's was going to get pushed back as far as like construction and deadlines. And so I had another few months that I was unemployed basically. And so on social media, because that's the kind of platform it is.
That's right.
Yeah. Put yourself out there and say, hey, I've got about 3 months that I could give somebody. Does anyone need my help?
Yeah.
And sure enough, he was on vacation in Sweden with his family. He emailed me. Gavin Kaysen was like, I have an opportunity for you. Let me know. I'll let you know. I'll reach out when I come back. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I would love to. And I approached Jeremy with it. I was like, hey, Gavin Kaysen has reached out, and he said that he has an opportunity for me to move to Minnesota for a couple months, help them out a little bit, and do a executive chef residency at Belcourt.
That's badass.
Not at Spoon, at Belcourt. And I was thrilled. Because it's like French food, it's this volume. And with what Birdie G's was going to be compared to what Rustic was, I needed volume. I needed that kind of like experience. I didn't have that. So I moved. I packed up my car. I rented out my apartment for like 3 months. And I drove to Minnesota with my mom. We went through Yellowstone. We went through the country. It was unbelievable. Driving out of Wyoming is like a Twilight Zone situation. Like Yosemite is the most, or Yellowstone is one of the most incredible places. Montana, Idaho, like that whole trail up through Wyoming. But then we went down and we were like going out of Wyoming, and it's these gorgeous, big, huge mountains, and it's like all pinks and rosies, and the sun's going down, but it doesn't end. You just keep going through these mountains, and you won't ever. And we like started to like get a little
dizzy.
Weird.
Oh, this is too beautiful.
Are we ever getting out of here? Like, does this ever end?
We already saw that mountain.
Oh my God! You're on the right. We haven't turned at all, right? Oh my God, that was intense. That was an insane drive. But we got to South Dakota, and then we got to Minnesota. But I moved to Minnesota. Moved in with Stu. I was like, I cannot recommend more to anyone. Let a stranger sleep on your couch.
Oh, for sure.
You never know.
You never know. It's amazing.
This person?
And what they're going to do after your couch, Then you feel like you're part of their success.
He had to live on the couch for 5.5 months. Let's just say my extension lasted a lot longer than I expected. I left Belcourt in February 14th. I left. I drove back across country. I was there for 5.5 months, and I loved it. I spent Thanksgiving. Chef Gavin invited me to his family's home for Thanksgiving. I spent Thanksgiving with his family because I was all by myself in Minnesota. I was able to fly back for Christmas. New Year's Eve, I had a dish on the menu. Like, we were doing specials. I got to, Chef Chris taught us how to butcher whole veal. Yeah. And Diane, who's the pastry chef there, is like the most talented, organized, and her team and the women she has working for her. I mean, these people are fucking talented. They are the creme de la creme of human beings. Yeah. I'm like, I stand by it, 100%. I'm a religious person too. I'm a very, very deep, God-loving, spiritual believer. Those are good people. Mm-hmm. Fuck.
Yeah, the times I've met Gavin and that whole company is like you guys are coming out of heaven, or what?
Chef-driven hospitality
they
group,
make
strong female presence with incredible professionalism, decent human beings, tasty, delicious food, good drinks, fun times, good people.
That sounds amazing.
Fuck. In the snow. in the snow in the negative 23 degrees.
Yeah.
It was like during that
Negative
whole, like,
23?
It was like that
Damn.
whole fucking, like, apocalyptic
Yeah.
cold front that
Dude.
we all went through. Negative 23. That's when you go into the walk-in and you're like, it is warm in here.
Yeah, it's
Because
warm in
it's
here. Yeah,
-5
exactly.
outside. And you're like, are we keeping our produce at this temperature?
Yeah.
We need to be careful.
Yeah, exactly.
It is too warm
Is this
here.
really what 32 feels like?
This is
is wild.
Hot. I am hot.
I love that.
Oh my god, that was strange. But
So after your time there, you know, you're ready to like kind of get back in the saddle of things?
yeah,
Right.
I literally left February 15th and I started at Birdie G's February 19th.
Okay.
And we opened June 21st.
Did you see anything before that? Any build out or anything change?
Only the locational visits during the time that I would come back out here.
Yeah.
Like I came back in January before I went back to Minnesota and was at the space and was still doing construction. And you know, Jeremy shared blueprints with me, so I had an idea. We talked about staffing while I was still there.
Yeah.
Because you know, construction was being pushed back.
Yeah.
So it's not
like
really,
always.
you know.
Like always.
Yeah. It's like, you know, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to maintain a living lifestyle
Exactly.
that I've created for myself.
And
So
stay
I
busy
gotta,
and sharp.
Yeah, I gotta know what's going on.
Yeah.
So then, you know, got back into the swing of things. Got to open a restaurant from blueprints, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I've never been a part of that aspect of things, so that was a huge growing opportunity for me, which, you know, the male side of my family is a lot of iron workers and construction, and a lot of, even on my dad's side of the family, like a lot of the males in my family do construction. And it's just something that works for us. Like I understand it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like building. I don't do much of it, but from the design perspective and the execution perspective, I love it. I like ate that shit up. And I get along really well with men. It's professionally.
Yeah.
I have great relationships with men in my professional business, and I pride myself on being able to kind of, you know, stand side by side and work instead of it being teetered either way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So it was just an incredible opening.
So when you came back, this kitchen is built.
Was being built.
Gotcha.
So there was we opened in June. We started cooking health department wise by the last week of May.
Mm-hmm.
So February, March, and April was putting it together, buying every smallware you could fucking think of.
Yeah.
You know, creating a menu, recipe testing at either Tallulah's or Rustic.
Yeah.
And that was difficult, kind of going
Oh,
back
for sure.
into those
Yeah.
restaurants and doing recipe testing and stuff, and kind of feeling like an outsider, but kind of still feeling like an insider.
And then the chef in you is like, we didn't do that like that
like,
before. And then you're like, Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Shut the fuck up.
Exactly. I hear you. Exactly.
God, I really need to listen to myself. So when we got into actual mobile mode of like cooking in the kitchen of Birdie G's, Deanie Hickox was Jeremy's actual kind of pastry consultant on the project.
Yeah.
They had a personal relationship. They were ex-husband, ex-wife, but now they're all happy and friendly, and couldn't be like more of a healthy relationship with Rachel and Birdie, and like the whole family's just, it's great. I love seeing that, where your professional side can still interact even with a personal issue behind you. I think that's an incredible thing about kitchens, is because at the end of the day, it actually isn't about you. It's about what you're creating and this food.
Yeah, and the guests and
who's experiencing it. And you can put things aside to really work together on that.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a weekend of training and gave us all these recipes. We executed them. And then the team and I were the ones that were going to enforce for the menu. We didn't have a pastry chef on site. And with my knowledge, as well as our sous chefs, that was the execution of our pastry program, which I love. I have a huge, huge love affair with becoming a pastry chef, like completely, 100%. and only doing savory for myself at home because I just love it that much. And it was fun. It was great. We did all of these dinner series leading up to our opening.
Yeah.
So Gavin Kaysen came out and did a dinner with us. And then we did like all of the chefs of the Rustic Canyon group. We did a bunch of chefs from Los Angeles. And then June 21st, we were open. So we really only had a month with 3 chef dinners in between to train, create, and set up this 5,000 square foot restaurant. And we did. And we opened it successfully. We opened it incredible volume, and we maximized probably by about January the extent of what that restaurant was capable of. Truly. Holidays, private dining, full tables,
just
inside
busy
and out,
is the goal,
and prefix menus on the dish. Like, just capacity.
Yeah.
I decided to take a trip in February where
I saw you, yeah.
Coincidentally met in London. And a month later, we were shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the extent of the experience of Birdie G's. Because once we shut down, we never did takeout when we opened.
Yeah.
We never did takeout food. Like, we just didn't. The menu does not translate.
Yeah, exactly.
Takeaway.
Yeah.
So we just decided not to. And the volume, how the fuck could we?
Yeah, exactly.
And where was our commissary kitchen? So we closed March 15th. We were closed one day, and we opened back up the next day as takeout. And for the 6 months of kind of opening dining, shutting dining, trying new takeout, all this stuff, like we've previously said, it brought Jeremy back into the restaurant, which you don't need 2 executive chefs at a restaurant that's doing a quarter of the volume.
Yeah, exactly.
And I started to understand what I wanted to learn more of.
Yeah.
One, I wanted to learn a lot more of the front of the house basis of stuff rather than another kitchen. I know kitchens. I feel confident in kitchens. I don't feel confident on a reservation book.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to open my own concept one day, like in the future, not near, not far, who knows, but in the future, I want to have that experience. I want to know how to do those jobs. I don't want to rely on other people to do those for me until I know what those jobs are. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll transition myself into front of the house management and start to look at the dining room in the same concept of eyes as the kitchen. Because I don't want to be in another kitchen until it's my food. Like, until it is completely my creative being.
Yeah.
That's when I will go back into a kitchen. But for the time being, let me leave Birdie G's. That restaurant is handled. What we set up is strong.
Yeah.
And sustainable.
Of course.
And the people who are still there who opened it are continuing that. And that was the thing. It was never a departure because of that restaurant. It was a departure because of my own growth.
Yeah, of your own growth, yeah.
And I think...
the student became the master.
And that's why it became amicable. Is because, and I looked at Jeremy thinking, look, now you have an opportunity with someone else to do this. You did this with Andy. You did this with me. Have another opportunity with someone to build up to this stature, to what we've been able to create. You are the teacher. You are the mentor. Here is another opportunity. Yeah. Because I'm going to learn something else from someone else.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of my journey now. And dance has been my therapy through my entire career. So while I've had ups and downs, I'll have, and you're in my house, but you'll see, like, I have to have hardwood floors because I'll, like, roll up the mat, and I have a huge space that I can just fully dance on, and I'll put, like, my radio on, and I'll close all the doors, and I full out dance, and I get my exercise, and I get my feelings and my emotions and my, like, back to one spot of what I want to be doing. And I do that more now that I've left and I'm kind of on my own schedule. And it's really supported me in feeling that I have the capacity to continue on my path of success. Not just continue on, but continue on a path of success.
Continue building.
And really start to transform my life according to my wants and needs.
Exactly.
And not someone else's reputation or someone else's name or someone else's, expectation.
Exactly.
Really my own. And perform at my own expectation.
Yeah.
Hold myself accountable. And so I think that's kind of where I am at now. I've been able to find, so much strength from dance and then my ability of cooking to kind of lead me to whatever. And the fact that I've created the time for myself now, I see the opportunities coming. None of these opportunities were ever presented before because why would I be thought of? I had no time.
Exactly.
I had no time to do shit.
Yeah.
Except, lose myself.
Yeah.
So now
that you're a gun for hire,
opportunities, I get calls every day, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, this is, I need to keep on.
Yeah.
You don't
stop.
This go.
Don't stop.
Keep on. And dance really provided an understanding, not only as a discipline that I already had with, getting into cooking, because cooking is such a hard discipline.
Yeah.
And I've had that all of my life with dance, and then spatial awareness and multitasking. All of those things are embedded in you as a dancer from day one. And I started dancing when I was 10. So imagine if you started learning the fundamentals of working in kitchens and with other people at 10, and then you started cooking. Mm-hmm. Fuck. People would be incredible.
Yeah,
They'd be incredibly successful.
That's what I'm saying.
Even during this time.
I was telling somebody, I was like, in order to run the country, I think you should work at least 5 years in a restaurant and 2 years in the military. And then we'll be all set, and then we'll be good.
Then you'll be have a foundation.
Yeah, then the policymakers will know that, hey, close tomorrow isn't the best thing to be telling me. Because now I have to throw away $10,000 worth of shit or whatever it is, or give it away. Or
organize the homeless so I can take all of this food that we're wasting. You credit me back.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the issue with giving food away to charity. It's always like, well, you need to fill out all these forms and have a license and we need to temp it and this and that. It's like, they're not eating anything. Just let me give them the food,
You. If your concern is about what I'm feeding them, then you're systematically in the wrong position.
Exactly,
right
exactly.
In a different position. But that's kind of that's me. That's where I am now, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities I've had. And I think that's something that, I learned now is that I need to make sure I'm listening to what those are and really stay true to what's next. Because so far, it's worked out.
Yeah.
It's worked out really well. And the people in my life are very important to me. I don't have a huge circle. I have a very intimate circle, and there's a deep, deep importance to all of those people involved. And I think that's something that I will always carry with me. But I don't know what's next. I have opportunities, and I'm going to see, I'm going to pursue what is next for our industry. I don't know. I think one thing about being in Los Angeles that as much as I want to leave this city, the fact that you have such an opportunity for the clientele that can afford the services of what the people in the city can provide is exponential. You have so much wealth concentrated in this county that allows us the opportunities to have here, as opposed to living in a place where you don't have this much wealth at your disposal, that people can pay the money to live a life while you cook for them.
Yeah.
While you just cook for them. I mean, you've got to. That's why people move here. It's because the level of achievement is a very, very high bar here in Los Angeles.
People want to be around that.
And especially nowadays, with all of these unemployed cooks, they're all doing it on their own. All of them.
Exactly.
They're all doing it on their own now. They're all like, okay, well, let me look at my home kitchen. Let me cook something here. Let me put it out there and see who bites. All of them. Everyone that I know is trying that. That's all we know how to do. If you don't give us a platform together, doesn't mean we're not going to make that platform.
Exactly. We're all hungry.
We're going to do that at home. So I think there's a really great kind of something to look forward to. I just don't know if it's going to become better yet.
Well, this entire year has been a gift and a curse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's given us the time to sit back and really think about what the hell's going on in our lives, and then also it just sucks. You know,
so many of us were on that bullet train.
Yeah,
so many of us were on that bullet train, and we thought being on that bullet train was the most important thing we could have been doing.
Yeah, don't look back,
when that
look
bullet
forward.
Train stopped, you changed everyone's perspective.
Yeah.
Even if it stayed the same, it still changed a little bit.
For sure.
And
sure.
I'm not a political person just because I'm kind of a unicorn in my policies.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I have a lot of value of both
here and
sides
there.
of the party, but I can't call myself either or. And I just really think that what California has to discover is going to be brutal for this state.
Yeah.
And it's, as a maybe prospect of a business owner or a homeowner, I'm not looking at California as a safe and secure place for that.
Yeah.
And, while we were in London, like I was there, I was telling you before, I was there because I'm looking at that place of like, okay, I'm not saying this is any better, but what's going to feed what I want in my life? Like, what do I want to be around? The architecture in London speaks for me. Like, I love history. I love, like, old things. I love history. I love the past. I love learning about that. And just being in those kinds of cities with the architecture like Rome and the Vatican, all this stuff, there's a different sense of feeling, a physical feeling for me when I'm there, knowing how much history. I don't feel that in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I don't get that here. I love the beauty. I mean, San Diego is gorgeous. The coast is fucking gorgeous. It rivals the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's not necessarily like what's feeding my soul.
I hear
what's
you.
Deep engaging in me. And that's kind of where I am right now of like, all right, what is next?
It's a full transition for you.
What is next?
I mean, that's the best place to be. That not
I'm
knowing.
very grateful.
It's like you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Yeah. I'm
Just
fine.
like
And
everything before.
I feel more comfort and more security now. And it's not just because of my family. There's an understanding within my own self of survival that I know I can not only rely on a lot of people around me who love me very much, but I know I can rely on myself to get whatever it is that I need to get done.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, it's shooing away those insecurities before when I would step into a new kitchen. I feel so much more confident in myself now as a human being to be able to put myself in those situations and rely on myself to take care of it. And through hospitality, take care of someone else and really show them what, it is that this is. I love cooking for people and having them eat it in front of me and their face just become incredibly joyous no matter what they were doing. That instantaneous moment of taste created that for them. And that's the joy of it. That's what I love. And then I like to do it very organized and very methodical and very clean and beautiful and make it look pretty. Like that part of it speaks to me too. So I don't know what that is now. I'm not sure.
We'll figure this shit out. It's all good. It's all good. That's
I'm
awesome.
try and make it one.
Awesome. Well, Brittany, thank you very much for sharing yourself with everybody.
Absolutely.
And, I hope that all the people listening out there can find inspiration in your story because it really is inspirational. And I remember the first time that, I saw you in the kitchen and I knew who was in charge. You know what I mean? It was like this person has an aura of like, I got you. I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thanks again. And I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll be talking.
No, not at all.
Look out for episode 2 of Brittany Cassidy. This is Sucio Talk signing off, episode 6. See you guys later.